Welcome to The Secrets of Success. By following the proven techniques of the guests who appear on this series, you'll learn that even successful people run into detours and failures, and how you can apply their success techniques to change your life.
You're now listening to the most unique show on radio, the show dedicated to making you a success. Today, Rebecca Pacheco will tell us how to take the mystery out of mindfulness. Rebecca, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you, Bill. It's a pleasure. I'm happy to talk to you.
Now, Rebecca, I told you I love your book. It's called Still Life. And would you tell our audience what it's about?
Thank you. Thank you. So it is essentially about meditation. And then, of course, what happens when we can't meditate, what we should do when we can't meditate, when life gets in the way, which I have a feeling most of your listeners can relate to, especially in recent years. So it's told from a memoiristic voice. There's a lot of storytelling in it, but at its core, it's a how-to.
And just as a backstory to tell our audience, I picked up your book by mistake at my daughter's house because it looked like a mystery book I was interested in. And I said to her, can I take a look at it? I started reading it, liked it so much. I said, how can I get in touch with you? We connected. And our audience knows I have to call your book a dirty book, which means a compliment.
Which I love.
And because it means it's all marked up, my copy, It's underlined. And I have to tell everybody, it honestly has made already a big change in my life, the way I solve problems, the way I view each day, the gratitude I have for all of the things I have in life. So I would highly recommend it, but they can make their own decision as they listen to you.
Thank you for that. That means a lot. And I have to say, that's the best case of mistaken identity for a book, you know?
Definitely. You should always make it look like a mystery book. You'll get a lot of readers.
And I, too, am a dirty reader. There's not a book that I own that is not highlighted, underlined, dog-eared, all of it.
This show might be rated adult with all these dirty comments, but
I appreciate it so much.
We'll go from there. Now, you have three terms in there that keep coming up in the book. So to define them for our audience, can you separate meditation, mindfulness, and yoga? Because I think we mix them up.
Of course. Why don't I go in reverse order, if that's okay?
Sure.
Just because many people know me as a yogi or as a yoga teacher. My first book was on that topic. And oftentimes you'll hear yoga called meditation in motion. A lot of people, particularly in the West, know yoga as those bendy, flexible poses that we may love or not love. But at its core, what yoga means, the word yoga itself is a verb, and it means to join together, to yoke or to join together. And you can think of that in a lot of different ways. But, most popularly, you would say the yoking, the joining together of the body, mind, and spirit. Now, meditation and mindfulness, those two words get interchanged a lot. I do it myself. I do it in the book. It's not wrong, but there is a nuance between the two. There is a difference between meditation and mindfulness. So meditation you can think of as the formal practice where theoretically you sit down or lie down and focus on an object of your attention. Most notably, people use the breath, but you could use other things like a mantra, for example, or you could just look at a candle or a sunset and just let your mind land, inhabit in the present moment and let things kind of unfold. And your attention wanders away. You start thinking about what's for dinner or the latest breaking news, and you just gently bring yourself back to the breath, back to the moment at hand. And that's the practice, right? Mindfulness, on the other hand, is a state of being. So you can be mindful while doing anything. You as a radio host are adept at mindful listening. That is, your forte is listening and being in mindful conversation with people. You can chop carrots for the soup mindfully. You can walk the dog mindfully. You can do anything mindfully. And so the book tries to, give people definitions and practices and ways of approaching mindfulness and mindful living that work in real life, Now,
I've taken a quote from your book, and you say, mindfulness is the training for whatever life brings. And I was going to kid you a little bit about that because I'll ask an author, who is this book for? They say everybody, a 2-year-old, a 90-year-old, etc. But that saying is really so true, and I've observed it because I'm using it on real world serious problems and common problems. And when I say serious, legal oriented problems,
Yes.
major life problems for other people that I'm helping. And it really does have an effect, or it certainly had an effect on me. So that's why I'm talking to you today, and I want to get the expert opinion.
Yes.
You say,
it's funny. I was thinking about your show being that the topic is success. And here we are talking about something, mindfulness, meditation, which are not performance-based activities. And yet they do help perform under pressure in so many ways. So I think it's just a funny thing to note, right? With your expertise.
You say that meditation never hurts, always helps, costs nothing, and can change everything. Now, again, I think that's a very true statement, but would it be more appealing if you sold it for $99.98 on late night TV?
It's possible. It's possible. Do you want to be my manager?
We can talk about that after the show.
It's funny. We can always quibble with words like never and always, but I really do stand by that statement, and of course, if meditation doesn't help, you shouldn't do it. I'm the first person to tell you that. I'm very much not the 4 installments of 1999 type of meditation hype woman. If you don't want to do it or it doesn't help, then I don't think you should do it, right? But if it might help you, then I hope that this book is a resource for people. And I have to laugh at who it's for. And I would say, if you don't have a mind, then this book is not for you. But if you have a mind, this book might be for you.
Well, I think it really works. And as I said, it's been working for me. That's why I was so excited to talk to you today and to bring it to the attention of our audience. But oddly enough, something that is inexpensive and so simple always seems like, how can it be any good if it's inexpensive? But if you charge $99 for it, maybe we would think more of it. Let's put it that way.
Right. Of course, you can pay for meditation programming, you can pay for apps. Presumably people are going to pay for the book. But at its core, it's a very simple, accessible practice. And those are the best ones, right?
Oh, absolutely. And that we find that works, like they tell us, walking and just proper breathing. And yet that's too easy. We want a magic pill that costs money because we associate the cost with it. You said there's a lot of myths that keep people from doing this. Can you tell us some of the things that we shouldn't get distracted by or confused by?
Sure. Yeah. The myths of meditation are sometimes explicit things that we hear, or to your point, they're part of the sales pitch, so to speak, or they're implicit. They're sort of these misconceptions that we have, not even sure how we got them. Probably the first, most primary, most popular myth about meditation is that the purpose is to stop thinking. And I don't know about you, but I don't think the world needs fewer thinkers right now.
Definitely
right?
not.
So I would like to dispel that myth right from the start. Meditation is not about stopping our thoughts, but it is about experiencing them from a more centered place. Being able to observe and discern our thoughts. And when you are in the practice of meditation, say your listeners decide to try it, or I'm sure many of them already have some form of a practice already, they might tend to think that when they get caught up in thoughts or they get lost in thoughts, that they're doing it wrong, quote unquote. And that's another myth. There's this beautiful quote from Alan Locos, who's a Buddhist teacher, and he says, so what is a good meditator then? One who meditates. And that's really it. So it's this lovely resource that we can have, and we don't need to worry about whether or not we're doing it right or wrong. We don't need to worry about the cost structure or how good it is or how many likes on social media it accomplishes, right? It's this one area of our life that, again, is not performance-based. And then the irony is that it can help with our performance in so many areas of life.
Rebecca, at this point in the show, I want our audience to know that you're listening to The Secrets of Success on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm your host, Bill Horan. Our guest today is Rebecca Pacheco. She's the author of Still Life, The Myths and Magic of Mindful Living. Rebecca, we're going to ask you, one, where we can get the book, and if there's a website where we can learn more.
Of course. The book is available wherever books are sold. It's published by HarperCollins. Harper Wave is my imprint. You can also find more information at stilllifebook.com, and you can find me at RebeccaPacheco.com.
And our audience knows we have excellent authors, writers on the show. But I have to say, as I'm reading your book, I was amazed how well you can explain this topic without repeating the same thing over and over. Some authors, you read the same words almost in every chapter. You really have a way of getting through. And as you said, since it costs nothing, I mean, the book has a fee, but other than that, if this can change your life, and I think for some people it will be life-changing, it's worth taking a look at and getting a copy. And as I said to you, let's make it a dirty book, mark it up as you're reading, to take an underliner, a highlighter, however you like to do it. And again, the book title is Still Life, and it's by Rebecca, Pacheco. We'll give you that information again later in the show. You say in the book that we are not our thoughts. Now, I thought we've always been taught differently about that. That you are what you think about your golf swing or your basketball shot. So can you expound on that?
Sure. You know, the examples that you just gave are definitely accurate. They are true. They are real. Of course, we want to think about executing a golf swing or a foul shot with impeccable form. We want to visualize the best case scenario. All of these things do help wire our mind. They can influence reality, but we're more than our thoughts. We're much more than our thoughts. You may, for example, well, maybe not you, Bill, but but plenty of us have experienced anxious thoughts lately. And I think sometimes we get wrapped up in the story of I am anxious or I am angry. And these are all true, but a nice way to view it, maybe a more useful way, is I have anxious thoughts, because you're not only your anxiety, right? And I think that's a powerful distinction.
Does this help dissipate some of those extreme emotion or thoughts that we might, I hate my neighbor because they blew their leaves on my side of the street, or that kid is terrible, he walked his dog. Does this actually help dissipate or get those thoughts kind of back to the middle ground?
Certainly the data bears that out. And I always like to share, for example, what science finds. I mean, the meditation boom in the West was in part propelled by putting science against it and testing these theories. You know, for example, doing an MRI of the brain of someone who meditates and seeing how it actually changes over time. But the proof is really in the pudding for whoever tries it. So I just recommend that people do it and see. And when I work with, students, when I'm teaching classes, particularly with newcomers, often what we'll do is a few weeks in, we'll say, so what are you experiencing? What have you noticed? And very often they'll say something like that, like my neighbor was blowing their leaves on my lawn again, and I actually laughed this time. I thought, how ridiculous, and that's a very oversimplified example, but it is just having a little bit more space between a stimulus, whatever the stimulus is. It's the leaves blown on your lawn. It's the latest tweet. It's the latest emotion that you're feeling. Whatever that stimulus is, it's having a little bit more space and agency over your response.
Now, Rebecca, I'm going to challenge you on something you said in your book because, again, I'm a big fan. You say mindfulness is not self-improvement. I have to tell you, I honestly feel my way of thinking has gotten much clearer since I've started trying to practice what you say in your book. Sometimes just reading your book kind of clarifies my thoughts on subjects. So let's fight about it.
Yes, let's fight. This is a great fight because I actually agree with you, and I wouldn't be such a huge evangelist for meditation. I wouldn't, have written a book about it if I didn't have the same exact experience. It does improve my life in a great many ways. It helps me to function on a day-to-day basis. It improves virtually every aspect of my life. However, meditation, mindfulness, these practices are here for us, not just when we are calm, effective, performing well, quote unquote, but these practices are here for us at all times. When we are, floundering, when we are a hot mess, when we are enraged, when we don't feel like doing them. And so that's what I want people to take away from that statement, is that we're not doing it to better ourselves. We're doing it to accept ourselves. And then there's this beautiful irony that once you can do that, accept yourself in the moment. And as Pema Chodron, a Buddhist nun, says, which I love, never underestimate the power of compassionately recognizing what's really going on. I love that so much. And so once we can do that, a great many things will improve. We're going to be more attentive in the moment. And when we're more attentive, we're better able to handle things. So chances are a great many things improve, but that's not our goal going in, right? We're just letting the moment unfold. We're staying present. We're noticing the awareness that's arising, however it shows up.
So what you're telling me as a former lawyer or a retired lawyer is that if we find that we're self-improving and improving ourselves, we can't sue you for it because it's just part of being mindful.
That is absolutely what I'm saying. Yes.
And the term we use in the legal field is on nuts. We just lost another lawsuit, but of course I'm kidding. If we can improve this much, and again, I've seen it in my thinking patterns, it's helped me a lot, so I hope it's that much helpful to our audience. You mentioned that mindfulness arises from paying attention on purpose in the present moment, and that most of us actually engage in dodging the present moment. Now, why is that? Why are we in the past or the future?
Oh, but we all are, aren't we?
Yes.
Right?
Definitely.
We are most definitely, most often operating, out of speculation. What's going to happen next? As simple as, what's my next meal? We have that tethered feeling to our smartphone. We want something to do, something to look at. What am I doing? What's next? What's next? What's next? Or we're rehashing something that has already happened. And we can frequently see that flaring up in relationships of all kinds, communications of all kinds, where we might be angry about something that happened a long time ago, and it's present all over again, and we're not getting past it. And that's a stressful place for the mind to be. And science also backs this up. The mind doesn't like to be in a zillion places at once. This is the myth of multitasking, which I'm sure some of your business guests have talked about previously. But there's this power and this restfulness and this discernment that comes from being able to really pay attention on purpose in the present moment, non-judgmentally.
Rebecca, how has the pandemic affected what you teach people and the way people have engaged in mindfulness and meditation?
That's a great question. I can tell you that for a long time, it felt like I had to convince people a little bit more that they needed to meditate or that they wanted to meditate. And I no longer have to convince people. In the early days of the lockdown, in fact, those first months of lockdown, actually, I was teaching online for free just about every day a guided meditation on Instagram. And I was astounded by the audience. Because, of course, there were people that I recognized, friends and followers and students of mine that I knew the value of meditation, right? But suddenly people from all corners of the globe and all corners of my life we were all really quarantined within our own minds 24/7 in our own homes. And so what the pandemic shifted was that it became very real and inarguable. There were fewer ways to distract ourselves, I would say. But it's kind of funny because the truth of the matter is that we've always been quarantined inside our own heads 24/7.
Yeah, we're kind of stuck there, aren't we?
We're stuck there. And so that's what this practice is all about, is making that place where we live in our mind a more hospitable place to be.
Once again, we want our audience to know that if you're just tuning in, you're listening to The Secrets of Success on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm your host, Bill Horan. Our guest today is Rebecca Pacheco. She's the author of Still Life, The Myths and Magic of Mindful Living. Rebecca, again, would you tell us a website where we can find out more and where we can get this book?
You can learn more at stilllifebook.com or my personal website, RebeccaPacheco.com. The book is published by HarperCollins, and it's available wherever books are sold.
And Pacheco is Pacheco for our audience. And again, once before the end of the show, we'll ask Rebecca those questions again. If you didn't get it down, this can really be a game changer for you. It can be a lot of fun, and I think you'll be astounded at not only is it fun, interesting, but it will clarify your opinions and your thoughts on a lot of things. Now, Rebecca, I took another quote out of your book. We have no control over the past, some agency over the future. That depends on seeing the present clearly. The future begins now. Can you talk about that? Because it seems so true after what I've observed.
Yeah, I think, as we mentioned a moment ago, the instinct of the mind is that it wants to guess at what's happening next, and it wants to recycle or ruminate on the past. And both of those things are valuable at times and in certain doses. But the only thing that's really real, that isn't a memory, that is colored by all kinds of things, and it's not a guess because the future is never certain. We're always truly speculating. The only thing that's real is this here and now. That's the only one over which we have any true agency, is how we show up in this moment. And so it's painfully simple, but it's also extraordinarily powerful.
And I always look at someone and the way I viewed them yesterday. If I didn't like them yesterday, I don't like them today. If I didn't like a pie or a drink or some type of food, I go back to the past. Or I'm looking to the future. I have to prepare this paper for tomorrow, or this outline, or write this check, or whatever. So staying in the current time really is something new for me. And I think that's why your book was so helpful, because instead of looking forward or backward, I'm actually trying to ground myself a bit more in the present. And it really makes all of the other things much more stress-free, and it just clarifies. And I think, as I said to you before, almost like cataract surgery, if you've ever had that surgery, the day after you look at a tree and every leaf seems separate, the colors are so vibrant. Right. And that's what your book does. I love that analogy.
That's such a good analogy. And the truth is, though, that even folks who have never meditated a day in their lives, maybe even are highly skeptical or disinterested, the truth is that they have experienced mindfulness. They have experienced being in the moment. Some of the things that we do, probably that we enjoy the most, are underscored by that sensation. Just think about your senses, right? Like a great way of being present or practicing mindfulness in your daily life is to come back to your senses, your sight, looking at each leaf on the tree, to your point, your taste, really tasting your food as you're eating it. I mean, I don't know about you, but have you ever had a meal and you were so mentally checked out that you don't even taste the meal?
Honestly, probably 90 or 95%. And right, now that you got me thinking of it, I can guarantee you my next meal and the one after that, I will be much more mindful of what I'm eating.
Yeah. I mean, so it's funny. I mean, I've had instances where I thought someone stole half the sandwich from my plate because I wasn't paying attention. And so it's really just this pragmatism of coming back to our senses, literally coming back to the moment. And you know, that beautiful quote that I mentioned a moment ago, never underestimate the power of compassionately recognizing what's really going on. And, you know, there's so much going on in the world right now. It's very high stakes. And I think what is required of us is to pay attention, is to meet the moment and not avoid it, because we've gotten ourselves into a lot of trouble by avoiding, right?
Definitely. And again, I fall into all the traps you talk about, but I also fall into the good things too. So I hope they're balancing out a little bit. If someone was to say to you, okay, Rebecca, what should I expect to see? I'm going to try this for the next week, but what should I expect? Am I going to have sore joints? Am I going to jump higher, or will my golf swing get better?
You will definitely become LeBron James without a doubt.
So I'm going to be 6'10". Okay, I'm going to call you
That's
back
right.
in a week.
That's right. I don't know if you saw, as a matter of fact, there was actually sideline footage of him meditating during a game. It was remarkable. It was really great.
Oh, that's a good selling point.
Yes. I have, in fact, worked with the Cavaliers, not LeBron himself, but many, many NBA players and athletes of all stripes use meditation for a lot of the reasons that we've talked about. But what you can expect is, I kid, you won't necessarily become LeBron James, but what you can expect at first is that it might be quite difficult. Your head might be quite noisy. You will suddenly realize, oh my, what is all that racket up there? And then there will be some moments of subsiding, and you'll just befriend your own mind. And you might notice that you have a little bit more space, as I said, a little bit more breathing room, truly, because we focus on the breath. That's the best place to start. You focus on the breath, notice how noisy your mind is getting, notice how you get lost in thought, and very, very gently come on back to the breath. And so you're really making friends with your own mind. And that's, I think, what people really take away. That's sort of that first experience of how important and powerful something like this can be, is they can relax a little bit. They can handle what's before them. We're not manipulating the moment, not numbing, not blocking out negative emotions, but we're experiencing them from a steadier place, a more ready place, a more centered place.
And can we simply do this as we're walking to our car from the supermarket or taking a daily walk or a jog?
You certainly can. I mean, that's, mindfulness in real time, right? That's just mindful living. I would also recommend a little formal meditation practice, because this two-prong approach, the actual practice of meditation, sitting for a few minutes. If you've never done it before, choose a reasonable amount of time, something small, 3 to 5 minutes. Start there. Just focusing on the breath. There are a lot of apps that people can use now. You might use that approach. I want to be on my phone less, so I actually don't use an app because I knew how to meditate prior to needing an app. But for some people, they are really pivotal. They're really great. And, just work that into your morning routine or before you go to bed, or just carve out a little bit of time.
Rebecca, thank you so much. I want our audience to know before we wrap up, the book is Still Life. It's The Myths and Magic of Mindful Living. It's a black cover with white writing by our guest, Rebecca Pacheco. Rebecca, once again, would you tell us the website?
Sure. StillLifeBook.com or my author website, RebeccaPacheco.com.
Give it a little try. I think you're going to find that it's a life changer. Rebecca, thank you so much for being with us today. We'd like our audience to know that you've been listening to The Secrets of Success on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm your host, Bill Horan, asking you to please join us again next week at the same time when we will continue our journey to success.